Today on Investigate TV Plus, train derailments involving hazardous materials are rare, but when they occur, the consequences can be dire.
Our investigation found across the country many local firefighters are underprepared to handle dangerous chemicals when tankers come off the tracks.
It's such a low frequency event that some fire departments don't place as much emphasis on it.
We take an in-depth look into inconsistent training for those on the front lines of a potential catastrophe, plus uncover a critical tool that could help them prepare and save lives.
Then, the mental game.
Do you think getting a big injury is the biggest fear that football players have?
Yes, ma'am. I feel like that is the biggest fear, and then I feel like coming back from the injury.
Getting hurt can sideline an athlete for months, and sometimes recovery involves more than overcoming physical challenges.
It can feel like we've lost everything.
We examine the unseen impact of injuries, how they extend beyond the physical, and a solution helping college athletes heal their mind.
And 4 seniors walk into a community center.
When you make a joke and people start to smile, it's the best thing in the world.
And draw inspiration from one another while spreading joy.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
In February 2023, the village of East Palestine, Ohio, became the scene of a major health and environmental disaster. A train derailment triggered a massive fire which spewed toxic smoke into the air. While the tanks burned, the International Association of Firefighters says it took nearly 2 hours before first responders were alerted to what chemicals and hazardous substances were on board the train. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Every day, thousands of rail cars carry hazardous materials through towns and cities across the U.S., and the vast majority arrive without incident. But when disaster strikes and trains go off the rails, are local fire departments ready to respond?
Investigative reporter Josie Sturman uncovers vulnerabilities some communities face and explores a solution that could prevent another town from becoming the next East Palestine.
911, what is location emergency?
There's been a train derailment.
Looked down on my phone and seen we had a train wreck.
What are we working with? Loaded hazardous ethanol.
I mean, you just go into reaction mode right away. You start thinking what you're going to do for the response.
On a sunny summer afternoon in rural Reeseville, Wisconsin, Fire Chief Eric Howlett was once again responding to the unimaginable, a second derailment in just over 2 years.
This one was a little bit more unique as the dispatcher was paging, possible hazardous materials they're transporting.
Emergency crews were facing at least 20 toppled cars, some of them bashed in and mangled, buried in the ground along the tracks in the neighboring marsh.
How far of the area do we need to, evacuate potentially, mitigate what's there? How long is the spill going to be? What is actually spilling?
With help from technology from the rail industry, they soon learned exactly what was inside every single car: crude oil. Still, they were ready. Years of training in derailment scenarios involving hazardous materials, Howlett says, had prepared first responders, giving them the tools to handle the kind of disaster that's incredibly rare but impactful. If there are departments who think, well, it'll never be us, this couldn't happen here, is that dangerous thinking?
Yes, very dangerous. Yep. You want to be ready for anything that's thrown at you.
But our national investigative team, with help from the Arnold Center for Investigative Journalism at Indiana University, discovered fire departments nationwide may not be prepared for the possibility of becoming the next Reeseville, or even worse, the next East Palestine. It's the most serious derailment in the U.S. in years, but far from the only one.
There's like a 50 car pileup, like the whole entire train is on top of each other, every car.
Yeah, I was talking about that train that's got a rail car on fire. We do have some hazmat on that train.
From coast to coast, Federal Railroad Administration data we analyzed shows that since 2020, there have been more than 1,600 derailments involving trains carrying hazardous materials. 725 of those saw damage to a car containing hazmat, with dozens of incidents where that material was released, including major wrecks in Arizona, Louisiana, and Kentucky. Still, we found many communities are untrained, not fully prepared to react to a derailment that involves dangerous content. Our team surveyed dozens of fire departments near rail lines nationwide, finding some don't do any training for potential derailments involving hazardous materials, even when they told us they have real concerns about the possibility. In departments that do train, there are big variations in frequency, with some going years between sessions.
It's such a low frequency event that some fire departments don't place as much emphasis on it, which makes sense because if you're responding to a house fire every day or every week, you're going to train for what you're most likely to experience. Unfortunately, hazardous materials doesn't always, come to the forefront.
Anytime you have a potential incident and you're not prepared, you have to start from scratch.
Andy Elkins never wants to see that happen. He's in charge of hazmat compliance for the Association of American Railroads, the lobbying group that represents the nation's major rail companies.
The more you train, the safer you are, the better your response is going to be, and the more effectively you're going to serve your community.
But the industry is also serving communities, trying to remove some of the biggest burdens, travel and cost, by meeting first responders where they live with in-person or remote training. But preparing for a potential disaster isn't just about running scenarios. It's about arming responders with physical tools they'll need to minimize any potential impact.
The most important thing that you can have when you respond into any incident is knowledge.
These white numbers and letters are code for what's carried inside, one that can be unlocked with an app developed by the rail industry more than a decade ago.
This has a locomotive. This has multiple hazardous material cars.
AAR says the Ask Rail app has already been put into the hands of more than 2 million first responders for free. But many of the smaller departments we surveyed say they don't use it. Some had never even heard of it.
Most first responders will never respond to a rail hazardous materials incident. But when they do, we want them to have the training, have the tools, know where to get the additional resources, and have the confidence that the railroads are on the way.
The rail industry is also pushing to get the Ask Rail app into 911 call centers as a backup in case responders don't have access.
In 2023, the federal government put out a nationwide safety advisory encouraging those centers to download, train, and use the app.
Still ahead, a routine physical turned her life upside down.
No one who is in their 20s, 30s is expecting that this is something that's going to happen to them.
We examined a potentially deadly disease affecting more young women. Plus, a patient shares what inspired her to keep fighting.
But first, getting hurt not only knocks an athlete out of the game, but it can lead to physical and mental struggles.
It really just hurt just saying, I couldn't play.
We explore the emotional aspect of injury recovery and a program healing the body and mind. It happens in an instant. The sudden sound of a pop, intense pain, swelling. Then you have trouble walking or can't walk without help. From the pro athlete to the weekend warrior, an injury can be scary and signify a major loss for not just athletes, but anyone who enjoys time on a court, field, course, or gym.
Experts at UC Health say along with pain, an injury brings the stress of dealing with appointments and learning to live with a new reality that could include physical limitations. The doctors we spoke to say this is normal and there are ways to get through it.
Reporter Carrie Beal examines how 2 injured college football players tackled the mental side of injury recovery.
It really hurt me mentally, because I never missed a football game since I've been in college, but just missing those games, it really just hurt just seeing, I couldn't play.
Really, I'm like, dang, I don't want to miss a spring game. Like, I really wanted to play in it. It was my first spring here.
2 football players talking about how recovering from an injury is about more than just physical pain.
I was going up for a catch and just came down on my shoulder wrong, and I tried to stand up, and it was just like, hurting. It was hurting real bad.
Tristan Smith experienced an AC joint sprain, which is a ligament that connects the collarbone to the shoulder blade. He was out for 2 games.
We was in the scrimmage and I was going against the O-lineman. I put my hand up and batted the ball down. When I did, just freak accident, my shoulder came out of place.
Champ Thompson tore his shoulder labrum, which is the cartilage that lines the shoulder socket. He was out for 3 months.
Do you think getting a big injury is the biggest fear that football players have?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I feel like That is the biggest fear. And then I feel like coming back from the injury.
Clemson University sports psychologist Logan Hartnell says experiencing an injury goes beyond the field.
When we lose that ability to participate in a sport, especially, we know that the higher the elite level, the more that identity can play a role. And so this role of being who I am is connected to how I perform. What does that mean when I can't perform?
Hartnell says when we have high stress and anxiety, our cortisol levels can increase.
If it's overdrawn, if it's overriding our system, that can create more inflammation in our body, thus reducing our ability to recover.
It's why Clemson is thinking differently about recovery. Here at the Athletic Recovery Center, they have red light therapy, sensory deprivation, and much more. Hartnell says this is part of creating a positive mental experience.
Walking out a massage, you're going to feel great. And it's also hopefully great for your body in that same response, but the positive impact of having positive experiences is going to, again, put your body in the best position to respond to what needs to happen in order for your body to recover.
The Clemson football team has a similar setup in the 100 Yards of Wellness. It's not just for those injured, it's for everybody.
It's cool to go down there. It's cool. I mean, I love to go down there, and everybody's just together. There's some music, there's a little strobe light. It's not a negative thing to go to the training room.
Hartnell says sports psychologists are on hand to help athletes mentally cope. But having good support is another key element.
It can feel like we've lost everything. So that social support's a reminder that we're still a son, a daughter, a boyfriend, girlfriend, a best friend.
Bottom line, if you're going through an injury, talk to somebody and don't isolate.
Really just talk to somebody who had a recent injury in the past and just see how they got over it. And I feel like that's going to help you come back mentally strong and physically strong at the end of the day.
Still to come, her secret to longevity doesn't come in a bottle.
I feel that laughter is so important when you get older.
We explore the role of humor and laughter in healthy aging.
But first, her annual physical became anything but routine.
As the appointment went on, I could really smell the trouble in the room.
We reveal how faith, focus, and a little bit of makeup gave her the strength to fight a rare diagnosis. A breast cancer diagnosis is difficult news at any age, but for someone in their 30s or even 20s, it can be especially challenging.
Research shows women under 40 are more likely to have aggressive forms of the disease, and they're more likely to experience a recurrence in 5 or 10 years. Also, a young woman may not recognize her symptoms.
In Kansas City, a 25-year-old woman initially dismissed a lump in her breast as a muscle and went months before finally seeing her doctor.
Reporter Lauren Magarino shares how faith and strength helped prepare her for what came next.
For Elena Keel, it was full steam ahead, stepping into her early 20s.
Felt like I was living life to its fullest.
Go, Elena! Woo!
Doing well at work, getting involved with rec sports teams, and just spending time with my friends and family and looking forward to the future.
But in the fall of 2023, her pace slowed after noticing a lump in her breast.
I thought maybe it was muscle. I just didn't even really register.
That then came to a screeching halt by Winter at her annual physical exam.
As the appointment went on, I could really smell the trouble in the room. I could just sense it. I felt it. And Thursday morning of December 7th, I was officially diagnosed with breast cancer, invasive ductal carcinoma.
She was 25 years old.
So they're testing for the breast cancer BRCA gene, and I did not have that. It was just completely out of left field.
Unexpected news Keel had to face head-on by making a slew of decisions that were a matter of life or death.
A young unmarried woman, and you're saying I have to lose my breast if I want to live?
Keel ultimately chose to undergo a unilateral mastectomy in January of 2024. By early February,
I opted to do fertility treatments ahead of time, which I'm really thankful for because I don't have kids and would love to someday.
A whirlwind, deepening her faith.
I turned to Christ immediately and just asked for his guidance and for him to carry me through this.
Luke 12:25.
I knew that this was not something I could do on my own, I also did my makeup every day. I wanted to feel like I was still pretty, I was still beautiful. Just because I was going bald and then bald didn't mean I couldn't still be feminine.
Surgery, chemotherapy, and 16 rounds of radiation later, Keel rang the bell.
I'm a survivor.
She now makes strides with a community of fighters and survivors.
There's so many lovely women who are ready to help the next one along, and I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Together, back on a fast track to help fund research for a cure.
I'm surviving, and I want other people to have that same opportunity.
And to encourage others to listen to their body, no matter their age.
No one who is in their 20s, 30s is expecting that this is something that's going to happen to them. Nobody in general expects that cancer will strike them. What I want anybody to hear who's watching this is to just know your own body, prioritize going to your appointments and keeping up with those, because nobody's going to take care of you like you are, and you got to set yourself up for success.
According to the Cleveland Clinic, screening mammograms aren't recommended for women under the age of 40. But if you have a known genetic mutation or relatives who had breast cancer when they were young, you may need screening sooner. And if you notice any change in your breast, see your healthcare provider. Elena tells me she considers herself cancer-free. Proceed with caution. She's passionate about fundraising for breast cancer so that, in her words, others can have healthy outcomes. In Kansas City, I'm Lauren Magarino.
Up next, it may make you laugh.
What did the dentist say to the elephant? Tuscaloosa.
Or roll your eyes. We sit in on a wisecracking session inspiring seniors to guffaw, groan, and gather. Laughter is a great form of stress relief, and that's no joke.
A hearty chuckle strengthens the immune system, boosts mood, diminishes pain, and protects from the damaging effects of stress. For older adults, laughter has a significantly positive effect on mental health by increasing socialization.
Reporter David Andrews introduces us to a senior in Michigan inspiring her friends with a healthy dose of humor.
It's just weird to see you in person.
4 senior citizens walk into a community center. Sounds like the start of a joke, right? But here at the Hannah Community Center, it's the seniors who are telling them.
Abby, you have a joke?
I told the nurse I was bitten by a wolf. Where? She asked. No, regular.
For 1 hour, every Tuesday morning.
Who wants to go next?
Seniors share the silly.
What did the dentist say to the elephant? Tuscaloosa.
This hour-long laugh fest is called What's So Funny?
I think when I retire, I'm going to have a horse farm. And I'll name it Pasture Prime.
It's a weekly wisecracking session that came from the hilarious head.
We'll have a joke off.
At the head of the table, Judy Wattenberg.
I said, how you doing? He says, well, I got up with arthritis. I said, that's interesting. I went to bed with Ben Gay. And I feel that laughter is so important when you get older. Does anybody know whose phone this is? Older people don't really have things that make them laugh, and you could create a joke.
She started the pun-filled program 8 years ago for seniors she refers to as elderly orphans.
An older person that may not have anybody to help them or to talk to, a family.
And laughter?
And laughter helps because you're connecting with somebody.
The sailboat won the race, but it was obviously cheating. Everyone could see it was rigged.
Oh.
From groans to guffaws.
And then,
Judy says politics is generally off limits, but poking fun at themselves is not.
I appreciate as I get older, I can multitask better. Now I can sneeze and pee at the same time.
Old people need jokes, are funny. And people don't realize that.
This 81-year-old ringleader of the ridiculous says she grew up in a joke-filled Brooklyn, New York family.
My father and my grandfather loved the Reader's Digest jokes.
But she never started telling jokes herself until after her husband died 30 years ago.
It's because he never let me get a word in edgewise.
Now she's the queen of quips.
Age doesn't matter unless you're a cheese.
And is happy to share the spotlight with other seniors who just want to smile loudly.
A pirate walks into a bar with a paper towel on his head. Bartender says, "What's with the paper towel?" Pirate replies, "Arr, I got a bounty on me head."
Witty senior Abby Barr credits Judy with keeping the funny flowing.
She keeps us grounded, I guess.
In a funny way?
When you make a joke and people start to smile, it's the best thing in the world.
And she was bound and determined to leave this reporter laughing with the one about the husband who called his wife about his new prescription for Viagra.
Honey, we're going to have super sex tonight. She said, okay, I'll have the soup.
That was so funny. There were so many jokes I'd never heard before. So
you like the
it was
multitasking one.
The multitasking
She
one
busted
was
out
funny.
laughing for that.
And I'll have the soup.
Yes, you. Oh my God, Tisha.
That was funny.
Yeah, that was good. You want to hear mine?
Sure.
Want to try one? Why don't eggs tell jokes?
I don't know why.
They'd crack each other up.
That's cute.
That's not bad. It's
Put
not as
that
good
in
as
your
theirs.
dad joke
My dad
pocket.
joke, my kids
Yes.
will give me a hard time for ages. All right, that's it for us here on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks for watching. On the next Investigate TV Plus, to sleep over or not? It's a question keeping some parents awake at night as child safety comes into play.
Sleepovers can actually be a massive risk for children.
You have to be careful about where your kids go and who they're with, but also I am not a hardline no, because I want them to experience that side of childhood.
We take an in-depth look at concerns and talk to experts and parents about solutions to keep kids safe while they're away from home.